That's important.
All right, we are now broadcasting and people are entering. So welcome everybody. We're going to take 60 to 90 seconds to have everybody join, and then we'll jump right in. But welcome. I just want to make sure everything's squared away. We have a Q&A here. I'll mention this a few times, but feel free to ask any questions you have throughout the webinar in that Q&A, and we will answer those at the end. So welcome everybody. Again, we're going to wait about 60 more seconds. Make sure everybody joins in if they're coming from another meeting. Cool. Again, welcome. Just going to wait a few more seconds for people to join in. Jonathan, you're here with me, yeah?
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome. Got a few more people coming in, so we'll wait.
Sounds good.
All right. Welcome. I think I'm already seeing some questions entered into the Q&A. We will have a Q&A portion of this webinar at the end. Basically, the agenda for us, we're going to talk a little bit about the current situation in higher ed. Then we're going to do a bit of an interview style with Jonathan Lord, who has joined us from APU. So let's, we're a few minutes in. I think we've given everybody enough time to join. Let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody. Today we are going to go over how APU, Azusa Pacific University, is surviving the transition to online learning with STEM audio. So today I am joined by Jonathan Lord. He is the Classroom and Event Technology Manager at Azusa Pacific University. And my name is Ryan Root. I'm the Director of Marketing here at STEM Audio. So welcome. I'll just mention one more time for anyone who's joined us a little late, is that we have a Q&A portion. Please feel free throughout the webinar to ask any questions. We love to answer those for you. There may be some new concepts that you're unfamiliar with that STEM Audio brings to the table. I'd love to answer those. And also, we have an expert here, Jonathan Lord, to answer any of your questions, because he's already been there and done that when it comes to outfitting hundreds of classrooms with audio and video capabilities to combat this shift to distance learning. All right, so let's jump in a little bit here. The first thing that I want to kind of cover is the current state of distance learning. Now, this probably isn't a surprise to most of you. If you're in the higher ed space, you're experiencing this right now. It may be a nightmare. Things may be changing every day, but that's the reason we're doing this webinar, is to make it easier for you. So let's just go over what's going on right now. There's this major hybrid shift. I think I don't know how new this term is, but I'm seeing a lot of high flex learning, this high flex room environment. And what does that exactly look like? From a lot of the technology professionals, people like Jonathan Lord, who are installing audio and video into their classrooms, what we're hearing is that they're trying to figure out how to keep school going. They're trying to figure out how they can either bring students in or reach students while they're at home when we have to be distanced for the time being. And what does that shift look like? In some ways, it looks like limiting the number of students that can be in a room. In other ways, it's absolutely no students in the classroom at all. I guess it depends where maybe you're located in the world. But most of the time, what we're seeing is that there has to be this ability for professors to reach their students where they're at. And the majority of them being at home, these rooms need to be equipped for that distance learning. So the high flex classrooms, some of this will look like, maybe 10 people in a 30-person room, socially distanced, but also you're going to have, let's say, 20 other students that were supposed to be in that room learning from home. And how do they do that? You equip your rooms with audio and video to make it a video conferencing equipped classroom. And there's an immediate need for this. That's no surprise. school's either starting now, next week, in a few weeks, and we've had a few months to figure this out. Maybe you've been doing research, but now it's time to act, get your rooms equipped, and I think you're going to be fairly surprised with how STEM audio has, solved that problem for a lot of people, specifically Jonathan Lord, who we will bring in just a moment. But I want to give a quick project overview of what APU did with their classrooms. So this is a breakdown, quick profile of this installation. We're working with about 217 classrooms here. This is across 7 campuses in Southern California. The installation process, and Jonathan can speak more to the details of this, but it's basically getting all these rooms installed in about 3 weeks. Jonathan will dive a little more into this, but how that was possible with the technology that he chose for his classrooms. 3 weeks isn't a whole lot of time, but I think it could have taken a lot longer. Jonathan can verify if maybe other solutions were involved. We're looking at a team of about 12 people. Jonathan will dive into the breakdown of his team and how that all worked out with getting these rooms installed in such a short span of time, and a breakdown of STEM audio devices in these rooms. 98 STEM walls were used, 129 STEM tables, Hudley Go cameras, and InSwan dock cameras, amongst other things that were already installed in the room. Again, Jonathan can speak to those in a minute. Now, I'm going to bring Jonathan Lord in. So Jonathan, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you. Yeah, if I could offer just a couple clarifying points to some things on that last slide.
Sure, let's hop back.
Yeah, for those of you who aren't super familiar with APU, we do have several regional campuses as far north as the Victorville, Hesperia area, down to San Diego and Monrovia, and all the way over to Orange County and LA. So this is a very wide project geographically all over Southern California. And when we had that team of 12, I just want to clarify that those are not 12 full-time, classroom installers, all with CTS degrees. This was basically me full-time. I have 2 other full-time staff, but one of which couldn't spend a lot of time with installation due to certain health concerns surrounding COVID. It was 3 or 4 other staff members that we borrowed from other departments for a day or two. Again, they're in IT, but not in classroom tech. And then the other about 5 or 6 were student employees who do a great job supporting our classrooms. But again, these are going to be part-time employees and they're not going to be like your CTS certified people who are integrated or who are certified designers and installers. This was just kind of the people we had ready to go. So I just say that to say, like, this is a very achievable thing, even without, some gigantic, full-time certified staff. So.
Nice. All right, so I'm going to play a few videos and show some pictures of the installation. We were able to visit the campus a week or 2 ago. And as you're seeing these photos and videos, Jonathan and I are going to talk about the installation from beginning to end and a lot of the details in there. I hope this sparks additional questions for you guys. Maybe we answer everything you've ever wondered. But yeah, please enjoy the videos and pictures as Jonathan and I go through this. So Jonathan, I want to start by talking about kind of like, let's just start at the beginning. The whole scope of the project, like, was there a day where you realized, okay, now I have to get all these rooms equipped with audio? Like, what were you tasked with? What was this project from a high level? I know we just went through like a project overview, but if we could just kind of reiterate that, if you could go ahead and share.
Yeah, so, it wasn't really a specific day. It was kind of this ever progressing project that, as early as late March, we were thinking, something's going to have to change for fall. As we progressed and got into May, April, May kind of territory, the conversation began, hey, what would it look like to put video conferencing in all of our classrooms? And then as we got into May and June, it's like, okay, let's actually quote this out, figure out what this would look like, what costs would look like, what timelines would look like to get all this installed. So it was really kind of just kind of a scope creep, I think is a term a lot of us are probably familiar with. where things, kind of the scope of everything just got larger and larger as we found out more and more about what pandemia has for all of us.
Right. Can you go over like what was needed for each one of these classrooms?
Yeah, so again, like, even that kind of changed as we figured out what fall would actually look like. There was a while where we thought we were going to be doing more of a high flex model you were talking about, where you have some students in the room, distanced, and then other students joining remotely. Um, but to sum it up, it's present what's going on in the room clearly, whether that's a professor talking, or whether that's whiteboarding, or whether that is presenting PowerPoints or whatever other computer content you have. Just making sure that the remote students can have an equivalent experience as the in-room students would be having, and still getting everything out of it.
Nice. And for the people that are joining us today that maybe are looking for that like step-by-step guide, I imagine, like one of the first steps, once you know like what you need for your rooms, there's like a research process, then there's like pricing. Can you kind of go through like that whole like step-by-step guide if someone's like, okay, where do I start and how do I get to the point where, we're installing this?
Sure. I cannot say enough for the research and development process for us. We had a little bit of a head start because we had started a distance learning program before all of this had happened, probably about a year and a half ago, to help connect our different campuses together. And we had even been experimenting with like higher level video conferencing room integrations a couple of years even before that. So we actually had a fair amount of video conferencing equipment on hand. We also bought some additional stuff. And one of the first things I did was took a handful, I think it was 3 or 4 classrooms, and just hooked up a bunch of stuff in them to see what worked well. Obviously, the STEM wall was one of the first things that we played with, along with, everything from a little tiny USB speakerphone paired with a little cheap, like $50 USB webcam, all the way up to what eventually we landed on with the STEM wall, and the higher end Hudley cameras and the Hudley IQs even we played with for a bit. And the first thing I did was actually just record a big old demo video that we recorded it on the far side so we could actually demonstrate what the far side participants would be seeing. And I just cut together this compilation video of I think it was about a dozen different designs in total, which we got to share with our various academic committees and our return to campus committees, so that they could see not only a budget, like, okay, here's a big price tag and some model numbers you probably don't understand or have never heard of, to here's the actual product this will give you, here's what it will sound like, here's what it will look like. That was probably the most work intensive part of the process in the beginning, but it was also the most rewarding because I think it gave all of our customers, being the faculty and staff and administrators, the confidence to endorse the products that we were putting forward in these designs.
Nice. And I think one really cool thing you did is once you decided on the devices for the room, you received them all, you created a video, right? You created a video that kind of guided your team through the process. I think this may be a nugget to share with everybody on maybe how they can help like roll this out pretty quickly like you did.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like I had mentioned, I cut together that video demonstrating all 12 of those designs. What I did for that was I just took a laptop and I put OBS on it, and I just did a screen share recording. We all know that whatever video platform you're using is going to apply a lot of compression, so just recording it straight off of the inputs from the computers in the room wouldn't be a really honest representation of what your students would actually experience. So I got a separate laptop, started up our Zoom meetings, and then used OBS to screen record it, both audio and video. And then I basically had 12 different little Zoom calls doing the same test. I believe I wrote something on the whiteboard. I talked at the front of first I talked right at the teacher's desk, and then I talked while walking across the front of the room to demonstrate, the professor lecturing. And then I talked while walking to the back of the room to demonstrate what it would sound like if other students were talking, so you could see what dialogue capture would look like. So I just did those exact same things in all 12 of these designs that I put together, and then cut that together into one. I think it was like 25-minute YouTube video that I handed out to anyone who is giving input on the design and wanted to see what we were doing.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe we're speaking to the same one. I'm not sure, but I think there's another video where you actually showed like how to install what you decided on in the room, right? And like this is something that you could give to all of your team, and like while they're installing these devices in the room, they watch the video and they know exactly like, you know, what you want to see step by step, how they can install it the quickest, how they get familiar with the products. That's right.
Yeah. So again, I was saying that my those 12 staff are not full-time, CTSI, CTSD integrators. The vast majority are my student workers whom I love and adore and who make everything I do possible. So
Yeah.
again, just to make the process super easy for them and for anyone, even our other IT staff who don't have installation experience, I just put together a step-by-step video of how to install these guys. It was shot on my iPhone, on an iPhone gimbal we purchased by one of my students who happens to be a film major, so it actually looked really good. Yeah, we even made some custom tools to help us install. For the walls, what we did was one of my coworkers he's got a whole wood shop at home, so he made this little mounting bracket that actually had a level built in that served as a drilling template. So basically, we got to put that on the wall. You could see that it was level. We just drilled in and the screws straight into the wall, and then that automatically spaced the screws so they were ready, and then we could just plop the wall right on it. So we got our installation process really down pat. I think we were probably installing these rooms well under a half an hour each room, and that's beyond the stem. That was also installing webcams and document cameras and updating Zoom and whatnot. I think the actual hanging of the stem wall device probably took under 5 minutes once we got in a good rhythm of it.
I think you mentioned, did you do upwards of like 30 rooms in one day?
Yeah, so me and one of my students who really enjoys doing installations, we drove up to our high desert campus and got about 15 rooms knocked out there. And then we drove down to our San Bernardino campus in the Inland Empire and knocked out about another 15 rooms there. And we're still going home right at the end of our 8-hour day. So 2 people knocked out about 30 rooms with probably 2 hours of drive time in there, factoring in where we were going. So it was really about 2 people doing about 30 rooms and about 6 hours of work. So
nice. Now I wanted to come back to this video because I think these rooms look amazing. And beyond that, I think that's pretty clear. STEM audio products look great. But that's not the reason you chose STEM audio, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if it looks great but doesn't sound great, or have the pickup quality you're looking for, all these other things, it's just not going to cut it. Can you kind of point out a couple things, a couple reasons why you ended up choosing STEM audio for your classrooms?
Sure. So, like you said, the audio quality is really the king. Referencing back to those videos that I made for our various committees, I went into making those videos having no idea really what the end result would be, what would come out on top, and what it would sound like. And we definitely had some close contenders, but the STEM wall unit definitely delivered the best audio quality for the far end. There were some products that had perhaps better speakers, but again, our priority was really making sure that our far end remote students sounded or were having the best experience they had. And really, again, the STEM ecosystem is made to integrate with other speakers as well, using the hub and whatnot. So this was really the best, just the best quality microphone that array microphone, specifically conferencing microphone, that came out of our tests. So it had a great range as well. Yeah, I think your spec is listed as like 15 or 20 feet from the wall. We have classrooms that are 30 feet deep, and we've definitely done some tests where we've had perfectly audible audio all the way to the back of the room. So it is just really blown away everyone who has used it. Obviously the looks are great. It's not obtrusive. It just fits into just about any space. It's super easy to install. which was also a really important thing as our teams had to pump us out really quickly. And the price point is awesome. So.
Yeah. One thing I want to mention for people who are maybe very, very new to STEM is this like scalability aspect. And we also have the ability to mix and match our devices, something very, very unique to STEM audio. Like I want to give you an example. Like the room you're seeing right here, it's to the left of my screen. It has a wall unit. This room, it looks like it's 40, 50 feet deep. Is it not?
Yeah, that one is probably about 50 feet deep.
Yeah. Now, I'll say that your intention for this room is not that someone in the back of the room can be heard by wall. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if they could be, but the intent here is that someone at the front of the room, a professor who's teaching, is going to be picked up. But let's say that down the road, Jonathan now needs to even pick up the students, which isn't uncommon. I talk to a lot of universities that want to pick up everyone in the room. Maybe when we adjust back to a mode where people, there are students, a certain number of students back in the room, and you want everyone to be heard to make it feel like, people that are home, distance learning, are in the classroom, you're going to need to scale up. And with STEM, you have the ability to do so. You can add more wall devices. You can add one to the back of the room, the sides of the room, up to 5 in this room with a hub connected. And you have the ability to do that. So just if you're not familiar with, there is that scalability aspect. You can take these devices, move them to another room. They work together. Even for the room I'm in right now, just so you know, you're hearing both Jonathan and myself on STEM audio right now. So there's one testament to the audio quality. But the room I'm in right now, this is actually our conference room here at STEM Audio headquarters. I have 3 STEM devices working in this room right now. I have a STEM ceiling above me, a STEM table right in front of me in the middle of the table, and I have a STEM wall at the front of the room. I'm getting the speakers from STEM wall and STEM table. They work at the same time over the network. Again, if you have any questions about all this technical jargon, how it works, we can jump into that at a later time. We're not going to go too much into that today. But we have like 126 microphones with the 3 devices that are in here. And it sounds pretty great. Jonathan, we're hearing you STEM table, right?
Yeah, and I'd actually like to speak a little bit to that. Yeah, I am on the STEM table. I have it right over here on my desk. So like you were saying, that room was about 50, 60 feet deep. And yeah, really as we're moving to a completely online modality, the goal is really just to pick up the professor at the front of the room. But obviously a big concern of our administrators and budget managers was how can this equipment continue to be used when we start to return to normal? And that possibility of mixing and matching the devices, to say like, this isn't just a wall device that is for this room, but no, now I can actually combine other devices in there, or I can move that device to a larger lecture hall and combine it with other STEM audio devices. That's huge, because that's saying this isn't just a device that will only work in this space. This is a device that can be repurposed and pieced together for any room on campus for any type of design.
Perfect. We talked about a lot of things here. Briefly, the installation process. Maybe just go into like the technical aspects of the installation process with our STEM devices. I mean, I could speak to it, but I think it's better coming from you, what you needed to do to get STEM devices working in these classrooms.
Sure. So we were fortunate enough to already have a computer in every classroom. That's just been a design philosophy that we've had for way before I was here. So the kind of logical next step for us was just to USB these devices directly into the classroom computers. We did have to work with our IT team, or with our computer technician team. Originally, our computers were set up as thin clients with like hypervisors doing that provisioning, which our setup wasn't great for video conferencing. So we changed them over all to local machines. And yeah, I mean, essentially the whole setup was just getting everything on the wall or on the desk, and then plugging it in via USB to the computers. We also work with our computer tech team to tune the computer image. They have remote imaging capabilities, so if we had to give them drivers for products or install things like Zoom or the Hudley app, We were able to send that over to them. They were able to put it on the classroom image and then push that image out through all of our classroom computers.
Awesome. As we come towards the end, I feel like we covered most, and if not everything, about this installation, but we do have a few questions here. So I'm going to jump to the audience Q&A, unless you have anything else, Jonathan, that I maybe didn't cover that you wanted to mention.
I think that's just about it. I will say, obviously, these designs have gone through a lot of iterations and not criticisms, but fine tunings, I'll say. And by far the easiest part of this has been the audio. We've had people and different other groups debate on, how should the camera be placed, or how are we screen sharing, or how do we capture the whiteboard. But probably the one thing that has stuck on this design from day one has been all the audio devices from STEM.
Nice. Jonathan, I want to get your feedback on this. We have a question that talks about, wall mics mounted below the whiteboard, but this person's classrooms have a similar layout. Will below work better than mounting above the whiteboard? I'm actually wondering, did you guys consider mounting them above the whiteboard?
Yeah, we did. So again, the original design was we thought we were going to be trying to capture the entire room so we can capture student dialogue. So the goal was we wanted to have it centered on the wall to minimize the distance to any seat in the room. So if we were going to have it centered on the wall, we're either putting it above or below the whiteboard. And all of our electric screens are mounted above the whiteboard. So if we were to mount it above the whiteboard and then bring the projector screen down, the projector screen would cover the microphone. So below the whiteboard, center of the room, this was kind of the only logical place to put it at that point. If we had known that we were going to be going all online, we might have mounted it closer to the desk, and we may in some of our rooms. But honestly, even where it is, it picks up the professor usually fine sitting at the desk.
Yeah. Jonathan, sorry, I'm reading these questions as they come through. I'm totally okay with this question, so I'm going to shoot it out at you. Is it possible to share the other contenders in the audio space, the ones you tried? Who did you test and still decide to go with STEM audio with?
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the kind of the point is no matter who they were, STEM came out on top. So I wasn't really given a budget number up front, so I wasn't quite sure what kind of order of magnitude I was working with. So on our lower end, I had everything from a Jabra 510 USB speakerphone, which cost like $150, all the way up to my highest end design that I gave them was, I think, putting like 2 ceilings and a wall unit in a room along with the hub, which came out to like $8,000 a room or something ridiculous. Some of the other competitors in that space were using the Logitech Meetup, and we used the Phoenix Audio Condor. We actually have used the Condor in several of our other conference spaces pre-STEM's existence. So, that was an old faithful we could jump back to. And we also did try out the Crestron UC soundbar. The top 2 choices, I think, in the end were actually between the STEM and the Crestron soundbar. I think the Crestron soundbar did have better speakers, but in my opinion, at least, the STEM wall sounded much better. The other thing is just the installation for the Crestron soundbar was a little more difficult since it actually needed 110 power as opposed to just PoE. So installation, running cables through walls and stuff like that was a little more difficult for a classroom specific setup. Also because things like that, they came in a package where the camera was integrated into the soundbar, and we actually really didn't want that. We wanted the soundbar, or we wanted the microphone solution, whatever it was, to be at the front of the room near the professor, and then the camera essentially more towards the back of the room facing the front. So it was important to have those detached. So those for those reasons, we all did eventually go with the STEM.
Nice. I have a few people talking about, very popular question right now is supplier lead times. Not just with us, but products are hard to come by right now for a lot of different reasons. So kind of wondering like exact timeline for this. I think the key here is you started pretty early, and I think that was probably a huge advantage you had to getting everything down right now. But I don't know, maybe it speak to like dates of when product arrived, when you installed it.
Yeah, so we submitted budgets for this just before the fiscal flip on July 1. Um, all of the committees and administrators, obviously everything was changing with COVID and whatnot. So they were constantly gathering new information, and eventually, I think we got approval for it on, I think like mid-July. Um, there's stuff we're still receiving and haven't gotten fully yet. So it all depends
Not
on.
from STEM Audio, right?
No, yeah, we got all of our STEM stuff. You guys were great. Um, but there are things like camera mount accessories, and like plenum rated Cat 6 cables for running through walls. Um, we still haven't received yet. And there are some things where it's like we are waiting on specific suppliers who we know will give us a cheaper price. We probably could buy a much more expensive cable that is available right now, but that's just not a priority. We have what we need to make our classrooms working right now. Yeah.
Nice. And yeah, for anyone else who's wondering about STEM Audio lead times, please contact us. I'll flash up some contact information at the end. But customer service at stemaudio.com, they're going to let you know exactly how long it's going to take to receive STEM Audio product. It changes day to day, so I don't even want to say how long it would take right now. Let's see, I have a few more questions.
On that note, Ryan, I'm also going to say, loved working with Zach and everyone that oversaw the purchasing process. We originally did want walls in every single one of our classrooms. There were, as with everyone, there were supplier issues, and we ended up demoing some tables as well. And we actually ended up filling all of our rest of our classrooms with table units. Because even I was impressed by how well they sounded and how well they picked up a lot of the rooms. So your guys' flexibility and your knowledge of your products and other workarounds was super helpful, even in the midst of all the craziness going on.
Nice. Okay, a lot of questions here. We don't have a ton of time. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Let's see here. Okay, Jonathan, of course, questions for you. I had a feeling, it's kind of just like people are trying to figure out how they can do what you did. Doesn't necessarily relate to STEM, but that's another reason why we wanted to do this. So was your decision to use in-house staff to do the install as opposed to an integrator based on budget?
Based on budget and timelines, we do have an integrator that we love using, and they were working on like 3 other projects. So even if we wanted them working on this stuff, they probably would not have had much time. So it was based on both timeline and budget, and the fact that it was just, so easy to hang on a wall or sit on a table.
Yeah, that was basically the second part of this question or was it so easy that you didn't need an integrator?
We are probably going to use them to do some cable cleanup and do more wall running, or like running
Right.
cables through walls and ceilings that we didn't have time to initially. But yeah, it was just didn't seem like a huge need at the moment.
Yeah, I'll say, we constantly are working with integrators. We have a whole channel for that. And they're very, very important to getting things done a lot quicker. They have tons of value in a lot of different ways. But yes, there is a huge aspect of STEM that even one of Jonathan Lord's student workers is able to install it themselves, and they're not AV majors.
Oh, no, I have everything from poli-sci to music to biochem to business. Yeah, I have a broad array of people.
I have a question about, is the comparison video available? I'm not sure what that speaks to. Maybe that's the one that Jonathan mentioned. I'm not sure. If you could maybe clarify more to that question, I could answer that more specifically. I'm happy to give a shout out to Visual Symphony, the dealer on this project, also BTX with distribution, great partners of ours. And not exactly sure, Jonathan, how you'd want to answer this question. I don't fully understand it, but can you recommend some ways to augment the audio output volume of the stem wall unit?
Sure. So first off, I don't know, Jeffrey, if you've actually experienced the output of the stem wall unit. I'd say it's probably fine for the first maybe like 15, 20 feet. Beyond that, it's still totally audible. I'd say you may just have to strain a little bit to hear it. But STEM has the hub unit, which as long as you get that networked in with that, you can send that to whatever speakers you want. It's just all about making sure that your acoustic echo cancellation happens. So, and that's kind of the beauty of STEM. It's meant to be part of a whole ecosystem. These devices, while they do work on their own, their real strength comes out when you're able to incorporate into other devices. And eventually down the road, we do want to do that. It was mostly a matter of budget and timeline, but eventually I do want to get a STEM hub in all of our rooms so that we can be using our tables and our wall units as the microphones, but use our actual power amps and all of our JBL speakers in all of our rooms as the actual audio sources.
And I'll even mention, without getting too specific, I don't think I'll get in trouble for this, but the STEM ecosystem, it was designed to where we can continually build upon it. So all I'll say is there are more STEM devices that will come out in the future. Some even maybe at the end of this year, things that will continually build on each other. We say here pretty often that these are like building blocks, almost like Legos, and you can build them, put them together. Again, like as you're seeing in my room right here, I have a wall, table, and ceiling device all working together. They're just like Lego pieces. Just connect them all together, not directly over the network, of course, but it gives you a lot of freedom to scale these rooms, customize them any way you want. Let me just shout out one thing on our website, a tool that may be useful for you. We have a room design tool. If you go to our homepage, stemaudio.com, click Get Started, you can design, let's just say you have one classroom in mind you want to get started with. Go design that classroom. You can build out the walls, so the dimensions of the room, drop in the furniture or the chairs, the desks, and then drop in STEM audio devices and see how much of a room they'll cover. I think it's a great tool to know exactly what you need for your classrooms.
Yeah, that tool was very helpful in getting our preliminary kind of ideas up and running. I will also say, man, it is hard to beat just buying a unit in the name of R&D and throwing it in a room. If someone wants to, balk a little bit at spending, $1,000 or $1,200 on a wall unit, well, that decision, that $1,000 is going to inform potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in spending. So I have to say, probably the best money I spent through this whole process was buying that STEM wall up front for the research and design process, so I could, test it against everything else and then super confidently recommend it over everything else.
Great. Guys, I think that's going to be it for us. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I hope this was helpful. Hope to connect some dots for people that are out there trying to do what Jonathan Lord has done. Jonathan, I want to thank you for your time, because you did not have to do this. It's not like we gave you anything to do it either. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time to truly share value with other people who have this problem and need a solution like you have come up with. So thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, everyone who attended. If you have any more questions, let me share this screen again and just show you contact information. Cool. So here's this last slide. There's our website, email, and our digits. So you can call us directly. Our customer service team is here to help you. We are dedicated to helping you figure out what you need for your classrooms, your conference rooms. Follow us on social media. It's all there. I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and end it. Jonathan, thanks again.
Absolutely.
All right. See you, everybody. Have a good one.